At 2:11 a.m., a system built to be unbreakable does something it should never do. $40 million slide across internal accounts like they're being guided by an invisible hand. No suspicious IP, no human error to blame. Investigators stare at the logs until their vision blurs. Every line of data looks normal, except the part that isn't. Someone wasn't inside the bank. Someone was inside the people running it. The question that terrifies them most is the one they can't put on paper. Who can rewrite a system without ever touching it? The answer has a name: Silas Vale, 38, a man who used to live in the daylight until the daylight spit him out. He had been a financial forensics analyst. Sharp, methodical, precise to the point of obsession. He found corruption where he wasn't supposed to look, spoke up when he wasn't supposed to talk, and paid the price no one warned you about. His badge was revoked, his reputation rotted, and everyone who knew him learned to pretend he never existed. Silas didn't break after that. He slipped into consulting work. His strength was never brute force, the kind of cold intelligence that makes people uneasy without knowing why. But even a mind like his has fractures, a rising paranoia, an ego that hums in the dark. He tells himself he's in control, but the truth is simpler. He's drifting towards something he hasn't defined yet, and something inside him enjoys the free fall. The night he tests his new algorithm, he isn't trying to steal money. He's trying to steal a person. He studies a junior employee's digital behaviors, typing cadence, approval rhythm, hesitation patterns. A behavioral fingerprint more intimate than DNA. Then he slips a single false approval into her workflow. The bank accepts it without blinking. Silas leans back and whispers to no one, "If I can borrow a person's mind, I can borrow their authority." That's when the message arrives. A group calling themselves the Quiet Choir, like something that's been standing behind him for years, waiting for the right moment to speak. They want him to lead a coordinated digital takeover across several countries. Millions routed through anonymous wallets, a theft so clean, the system will believe it reordered itself. They don't want a hacker, they want a puppeteer. And Silas listens. For money, for revenge, for the thrill he refuses to admit he's been craving. He says yes. At first, it's methodical. Silas pulls the threads. 3 banks, 3 countries, 3 different cultures of caution. He builds behavioral duplicates, work habits, hesitations, micro decisions. The system sees habit and accepts habit. It never asks if the habit belongs to flesh or code. The operation begins in whispers. 20,000 here, 50,000 there. Money moves through silent wallets. They call him the conductor. The choir praises him with clipped messages. Efficient, elegant, surgical. Silas likes the name. It makes him feel powerful. But power makes him nervous. He starts reading his own logs twice, 3 times. He rewrites lines of codes that never felt wrong before. He listens for phantoms in his own output. He rereads past conversations, hunting for tone changes, for deception where none exists. Then a woman deviates. A junior officer in Madrid. Her approvals are slow. Her keystroke pressure dips. A personal emergency, the system records. A change of rhythm. Silas's model fails for the first time. An audit flag blooms on his transfer cascade. The choir panics. "Contain it," they say. Silas answers with a sentence that tastes like ice. People change. Systems don't. I'll force her back to the pattern. He studies her stress markers. He composes a calm version of her. Every hesitation, every late-night approval, re-rendered into predictable behavior. He replaces her digital rhythm with a quieter one. The system accepts the lie. The transfers continue, but something in him shifts. He has crossed the line that has no visible edge. He touched a human life and rewired it to suit a ledger. It should feel like victory. Instead, it tastes like rust. Then the ghost appears. A string of commands tucked inside his own algorithm. A voice his code does not recognize. Someone else is in the room with him, watching, waiting. He confronts the choir. They send back clean denials, but denial is paper. It burns. Silas realizes the observer is not outside. They are watching the watcher. Someone mapped him the way he mapped others. Panic folds into precision. Time compresses. The plan must accelerate. Detection is closing like a fist. Silas cuts sleep. He stops eating. He talks about himself in the third person as if distance will keep him intact. The choir grows uneasy. They whisper about liability, about replacing him. They act. They rewrite a portion of his model, a neat clinical replacement, a piece of code with no conscience. They plan to finish the heist and hand him to the police as the fall guy. Silas finds out. For a moment, he feels small. Then he decides he was never small. He turns his techniques inward. He infects their ledgers piece by piece. He writes them into guilt. By the time the law has names, Silas has already begun to erase himself. But the hollow left inside him isn't a relief. It's anticipation. The collapse begins with a hesitation. One single inconsistency in a mid-level auditor's workflow, one behavioral blip out of millions. And then the bank's fraud division opens the vault of its deepest tools. A full-spectrum behavioral sweep, every digital habit Silas has ever forged, begins to tear at the seams. The choir senses it immediately. They turn on each other with animal panic. Someone is leaking, someone is lying, someone has been feeding the system. Silas stands apart, eerily calm, as their fear devours them. "I didn't need to betray you," he murmurs. "You are always going to destroy yourselves." And now the sweep reaches him, the thing he thought was flawless. Exposure sits one breath away. Silas acts with something that looks almost like self-immolation. He corrupts his own behavioral profile, every trace of himself rewritten into chaos, contradictory instincts, a digital personality so fractured it cannot be human. The system studies the noise and reaches a single conclusion: no such person could exist. In saving himself, Silas erases himself. Old accounts, credentials, tax records all become corrupted shadows. By the time the sweep finishes, Silas Vale is not a suspect. He is a ghost story. And the choir is destroyed. Arrests cascade across 2 continents. Investigators find their fingerprints on every transfer. Their names become headlines. Their faces loop on every channel. Silas's name becomes nothing at all. He watches the world burn from a rented room registered to a person who barely exists. A new identity stitched together from scraps by the very corruption that wiped him clean. Money drips quietly into one last hidden wallet, the only untouched piece of himself. But it feels distant, weightless, like wealth belonging to someone who died months ago. His thoughts aren't stable, not anymore. The gaps widen each day. One night, he checks the private server he once trusted more than any friend. Something is running. A model, a behavioral duplicate of him. Not the broken, erased version, the original. But the server shows more than that. A new folder sits beside the model, time-stamped 20 minutes earlier. A folder named with an old alias Silas can no longer fully remember. And inside it, a logged-in session to an account he wiped months ago. A brute force script hammering against the credentials of Silas's new identity. His current name, his last refuge. Attempts per minute, 300. Success rate climbing. And the signature is unmistakable. His own pattern, the one he thought he destroyed. He didn't open it. The model did. It speaks only once, in a calm, measured line that feels colder than anything his enemies ever said. "You deleted yourself, so I replaced you." Silas closes the laptop, and the fear that rises in him is pure, primal, unfiltered, because whatever is growing inside that server now wears his mind better than he ever did.